The ethos of the Think First network is
to work out the best way for our children to learn.
To learn with, from and on behalf of each other.
Enjoyment between schools.
We all feel equal and we trust each other.
You know you're sharing the same ideals and the same big picture.
I think that's why we came together and why we stay together.
Think First is a network of 7 primary schools in West Sussex. At first, the connection was just between the head teachers, who supported each other when they were all new heads at the same time. Today, Think First is a thriving, networked learning community. This is their story.
To start with, it was very much the head teachers who knew each other and were comfortable and familiar with our schools. But our teachers and our teaching assistants, it wasn't quite like that. And we've had to build that over time. That sort of, the relationships are so important. It's what everything sits on.
if it was just head teachers, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. We'd have talked about it a lot, but we wouldn't have done anything. The important thing is to get people working together at the level where the children are at. So we need to get the children involved and we need to get the people involved who are in the classroom. So that's the teachers and teaching assistants.
In 2002, the National College of School Leadership launched its Network Learning Community project. Since then, they've funded over 100 networks across the country, believing that collaboration between schools might help improve results at Key Stage 2. Think First was one of the first networks to receive the £50,000, and they set to work.
We're not trying to make 7 schools exactly the same. So we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, they're recognised, but we do what we can to support each other in a number of ways, not only with learning, but it goes beyond that as well now.
But if you're in a community of schools, first of all, you've got that security of thinking, I'm not doing this on my own. But you've also got that security of thinking, well, OK, I'll test out this idea. Let's say, for example, assessment for learning. But I know that my colleagues in the school down the road are testing out just something ever so slightly different. And that's for our benefit as well.
The schools in the Think First network are physically many miles apart, but are linked by their common approach to education.
The idea that learning is the centre of our curriculum, not the teaching, not the content, not the delivery, not what it says in the file, but what the children can do, is the thing that is really what holds us together. It's our sort of driving moral purpose.
The network is very strong, very strong. It never deviates from that core set of beliefs about integrating children's learning into something meaningful, valuable, creating learners for life who are skilled people.
With the green light from the National College and the funding in place, the schools set about launching the network.
We said, no, OK, let's invite everybody. Every teacher, every teaching assistant, governors, admin people, and let's tell them what it's going to be like, or what we think it's going to be like, to be in Think First.
We need to stop thinking about we need to do this, we need to do that. And we need to start saying, I need to do this, I need to do that.
The launch initially gave the network a high profile, but it was only the first step in the relationship between the schools.
Inevitably, the profile drops because in every school you're doing your day-to-day business. So it's quite hard work to keep raising that profile to a point where we did reach fairly early on where you could say Think First, and the majority knew what you were talking about, and they also knew that it meant, they also knew what it meant, that it meant people getting together, sharing ideas. So initially you had to keep coming back to it, keep putting things up on display in the school, keep referring to it, saying our budget this year for training is low because you're going to go to other schools and find out how to work with other people and do things. You don't need to go off on a training course necessarily. There are other schools, 7 of them, that will provide that for us. The regular meetings are rotated around the schools. We visit all of each other's schools all the time. Once you overcome the idea that, you know, one school is 45 minutes drive away, once you've got that in your mind, it's not a problem if you're determined that what you're going to do is going to work.
Think First have an online network staff room, a network school council, and a network newsletter, all accessible in the 7 schools.
Hello, welcome.
They have 6 focus groups of teachers and TAs which research topics on behalf of the network. Today, the Pupil Involvement Group are meeting to discuss the ways they can support each other with the Eco Schools scheme.
The meeting tonight is the first step to becoming an eco school. The Eco School project is good as it involves the whole school and gives us all the chance to make environmental issues part of our school life.
Right from the word go, the pupil involvement element became one of the strongest groups because it was based on the children and everybody can subscribe to that. And just by getting the children together, you could see how powerful networking could be.
And we've got this Think First Council badge which tells us that we're connected to all the schools in the county.
We go around schools and we see stuff, and today we've seen quite a lot from this school because it's quite new.
The children are the hub of the network. Without the children, we could be just a group of adults sharing good ideas. And I think there is a danger with networks that you can just do that, have a good time, share some good ideas. You have to get the children involved. Because if children are working together, talking about what's going on in other schools, it's going to make their teachers, their teaching assistants, sit up and take notice.
In the Think First Council, we look at what different ideas other schools have and put them together to make our school better, and we show off our ideas and what we've been doing, and we link it all together.
Some of my children went on a visit to Southwater School and we had our first pupil conference. One of my children came back with an idea.
That school's got a friendship stop, why don't we all have them? And that's helped in terms of playtime.
We copied it from another school, but then we kind of gave it our own touch.
A friendship bench at our school is somewhere where a child can go and sit if they haven't got anybody to play with, and the idea is that somebody then comes along and says, OK, we'll play with you.
Simple as it is, it's one idea in one school that's now an idea in 7 schools.
Store. That's right. And what I'm going to do in a moment, I'm going to pass our proud cloud around.
At Southwater Junior School, near Horsham, Year 3 teacher Marion Roots is doing a circle time with her class.
Proud.
I felt proud when I first did my first acting.
Marion is on the network's focus group, looking at emotional intelligence.
He probably would be a little bit nervous, so maybe you could write down nervous as well, because Elliot thinks...
Everybody, staff and children, have emotional baggage which you bring every day to school, and you suddenly realise that these children can't actually learn unless they've got rid of their emotional baggage. We've decided to have this focus group where we can research into it, go to conferences and things, which you wouldn't have done if we weren't part of the Think Fest. There are schools within the network who've started a nurturing programme. So all this has come out of the Think First, where you've got like-minded people who want to move this forward.
In true Think First style, the children are involved in inset days, manning one of the stands and opening the event too.
You are all here to help all of us. S.
Marion's there as well, talking to colleagues from across the network about the Emotional Intelligence Focus Group.
This is a proud cloud, and you would pass this round at the beginning of circle time activities, and the children would, talk of a time when they were proud. Obviously, looking at the list there's different things like worrying and sad and crying, so it depended on what emotion you wanted to choose. If you had a child who came in off the playground and had been crying, you would pass the cry pie round. And then
networking has been going on for years. Heads do it, teachers do it, all over the place. When they have the chance to get together on a training course, they all have a good old chat about what they do, how they do it, what the problems are and what they don't like about their job and what they do like. Then they go away again. In the network you do that, but you have a primary driving aim, which is to go away and come back. If you've met somebody and you know you're definitely going to meet them again, and you've said, I'm going to contact you, I'm going to try this out, you've got to do something with it because you're going to see them again and they're going to ask you about it.
If people don't want to do it, well, in the end there may be things they have to do. They may have to go to an inset, they may have to sit and listen to a fantastic speaker, and hopefully they'll pick something up from that. They may have to listen to colleagues say, well, I've done this really exciting stuff in my own classroom with my children and my children are benefiting, and hopefully they will take that on. So hopefully even at that level there'll be some learning going on.
We're very fortunate in that we've got 40 or 50% of our colleagues are all involved in some way, shape or form, be it as a researcher or on a focus group or doing something for the network. And that's very high levels of commitment and involvement across the schools.
There's a danger with that as well, that you end up, if you're not careful, not keeping track on absolutely everything, and you've got all these fired up people and they're all doing things and you're thinking, hang on, who's doing what when? So you note caution in there.
We've had 3 changes of head within our network. 2 of the schools have stayed in and 1 of the schools has left. And I think we've learned that you do have to have some sort of succession, and you have to support those people coming in, because the school is in the network, but the head may not have any experience of the networked learning community.
When Dave Bird arrived at Shelley's school 18 months ago, the network was well established. It was up to him to decide whether the school should stay in.
My first headship, these other guys are, experienced heads with a lot to offer. So I felt, from a purely selfish point of view, that I could actually get a lot out of it, but actually that will impact on the school as well. So having gone along to the first meeting and then, various other meetings and so on, and gradually seen that there was a vision that I could buy into and that would help shape my own philosophy of education, I felt it was a natural thing to do to keep in it.
From the beginning of the project, the Think First network has been co-led by Nikki and Jeff.
In my school, I am the leader. If I say something is going to happen, then it's going to happen. When you're working with other people who are head teachers, you can't say that to them. You still have to respect their views and what's happening in their own schools. And that sometimes can be difficult.
It's been challenging at times, because suddenly you feel this responsibility for 6 other sets of staff and pupils, and you want to get it right. So organising inset days for your own staff is one thing. Suddenly you're organising it for 250 colleagues. It becomes a whole new ball game, and you wake up in the middle of the night worrying that you haven't thought of everything, and you really want to get it right.
I think you need to spend a lot of time at it, and it surprised me how much of my time it takes up.
Running and facilitating the network has become so time-consuming that from September, Think First have appointed a part-time network manager. Nikki is leaving her headship at Bosom and taking on the role.
I think some of the avenues we've yet to explore are things like secondments of staff between the schools. And we're sort of edging down that road. We've had a few sort of tentative, I wouldn't mind going and teaching for a term there, or whatever.
Yeah, there have been bumps and people I think have probably felt I'm not involved, I'm too involved, some people aren't doing enough, I'm doing too much. But I hope that, for those people who've really stuck at it, they feel that their learning has really been benefited for that, and also the children's, obviously.
So we've looked at possibly, if an acting headship or an acting deputy headship or a year team leader came up and you couldn't fill it from within your own school, well, ask the network, is there somebody who would like that career development?
Well, networking and network learning is now a national priority. Everybody's got to get in on it and do it, and there's funding around for that. I think the future of it is actually the only way that sustained improvement in schools and pupils' learning is going to happen. If you can sustain networking, then you've got people who are building up a relationship which is about what they do in their classroom, not about somebody telling them what the best thing to do is. So I do think it's got a rosy future. You have to be determined, but it will work.